I'm Alex Howard.
And I'm Amanda Silver. And this is Dirty Laundry. Are we on?
We're on. Okay.
I have to
Welcome
say,
back.
Welcome back. I have to say, I listened to your episode, you and Ryan, and I loved it.
We're very cute.
I love listening to you guys chit chat. You got to do that more often.
We got to get Ryan in all the time.
Ryan, you got to make it be a regular.
But to be fair, we really missed you.
Oh, well, thank you. I was very sick.
Yeah.
I could not get out
You
of
got
bed.
hit hard.
That was a tough flu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 days you were out?
Almost 10 days.
Ooh.
I think just about. Yeah. That's crazy, right?
That is very
Not
long.
COVID.
No.
Nope. Just a flu.
But like, do those COVID tests actually work
anymore?
Yeah, I think they're
I
kind
did
of
it every day for
done.
5 days. So I
That's
feel
a
like
lot of nose swabs.
I needed to know. I was
But
like, it's gotta be.
why?
I just wanted to know
Okay.
what I had. Not
Yeah,
COVID,
like,
not
no
strep.
news is good news.
Really?
But then you did take antibiotics.
I took antibiotics for sinus infection. Yeah.
sinus infection.
Yeah. Oh, that was brutal.
So wait, so that's what it ultimately was, or
the
was
flu,
there
it started out as like a
Okay,
flu, and then
okay.
and then it went into the head, and then that was just
Yeah.
not fun. And you know what? When you're sick and you can't actually enjoy being sick, it really sucks. Like I'm like, oh, my kids were away, and I'm like, okay, I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna watch movies. I'm gonna take care of myself. I felt like shit. I'm like, I can't even watch a movie. Like, this really sucks. That wasn't a good sick.
No, the only good thing about being sick is lying in bed watching movies.
I didn't get to enjoy it.
Not a single one.
No.
No. When I came to visit you, you were very sad.
I know.
Just like in blankets and pillows, just like
go away. Don't look at me. I'm hideous.
Like, can I bring you some matzo ball soup?
I'm like, stay away.
What to do?
And it was Passover, which I could. I had a lot of matzo ball soup,
Oh, good.
but like I
Good
couldn't
timing.
eat.
Yeah. Could you even taste? Was it that
No,
kind
I
of
couldn't
sickness?
taste anything.
Yeah.
I was like, this is just.
What a waste.
It was just.
That's the time to be like, I'm spinaching. I'm eating all those like things that are good for me that taste disgusting.
No, it was.
You couldn't even do
I
that.
couldn't. No, I couldn't. It was ginger ale all week. It was a good week of ginger ale.
Ginger ale.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely missed you, but we really had a good time.
You guys sound like you had a great time.
We have a lot of fun here always. It's the only way we
You
roll.
two are naturals together. You're great.
Well, I think we should like maybe pump Ryan's tires because he does have his own podcast.
Yes, he
So
does.
it's not like he's just like a total noob.
He's not a noob.
He is already a professional podcaster.
He is before us.
Before us. What's the name of your podcast?
Talking
Ryan?
Buds. Ah,
Hey! Oh, you have one fan in this room. 1 out of 2.
it's all about the Leafs and
Okay,
hockey.
You must be living in your heyday right now.
because we're in the playoffs.
That's okay.
Come on in, scooch in.
Yeah, this is the busiest time of year for sure.
For your podcast?
Yeah, 'cause
Are
it's
we-
every other night.
You're
What?
recording
You're
every other
recording
night.
Every other
game.
night,
This is a
post game, because we don't do
Post-game.
post games during the season because it's just kind of like it's a little late. But
Right.
after every playoff game, it's post game.
Wow.
Okay, so a few questions. Are you not going to shave during the playoffs?
Oh, playoff beard?
no, I'm glowing up in my 30s. I'm keeping my
Okay.
beard under control.
You're
from now
glowing
on.
up in his 30s because he's now
I like
30
that.
plus 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're well into your 30s.
And I am
Well into
I am
it.
a seasoned podcast. We've done 287 episodes.
Fuck right off.
Yeah.
God, we are not fans at all.
I'm
I
a
did
fan.
not know
I knew
that.
the name of
That's
it. I knew what it was
incredible.
about.
Mm.
Wow.
You're on TikTok a lot. I see a lot of TikTok.
Yeah, we do great numbers on TikTok and
God.
Insta. And
Are you so
I'm
impressed?
so proud of you.
Yeah.
With me or him?
No.
I'm like, oh, are you so impressed with me? No, it's
I'm
you.
always proud of
It's you,
you.
Ryan.
But I've all
It's you.
289 episodes.
87. 87?
yeah, 287 last night, I think.
You changed the.
Apparently I don't listen
Yeah.
or watch.
Yeah.
Or...
So wait, are we going to the Stanley Cup this year?
No, I'm a home watcher.
Oh,
I like
that
watching
mean?
stuff at home on my couch
Okay.
because I
Okay.
can take everything in.
okay.
I can just do everything at my own pace. I don't have to buy $20 beers.
You don't
Sure.
want to go to the game. You want
I
to
also
watch.
get a little loosey goosey when I'm there too. Like whenever
What?
you get those
Oh.
like giant beers
Yeah.
from the Scotiabank, you
Yeah.
drink like 2 of them, and for some reason they just hit you so much harder.
Love a
than,
giant
I mean, I was
beer.
at the Leaf game like a week and a half ago.
Oh, good for you.
A great hot dog, foot long. It was delicious.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, tune in to Talking Buds.
Tune
Yeah.
in, Talking Buds. So cute. And tune in to our episode. Who have we got today, Amanda?
Today on Dirty Laundry, we have Sean Valentine from Osbourne Valentine Law. He and Ryan Osbourne have partnered up to recently start their own family law firm. And they are amazing because these are great lawyers. These are
Yeah.
lawyers you can actually go to and trust, and they'll take good
Yes.
care of you.
Kind, ethical.
They really are.
Yeah.
They really put their heart and soul into the work that they do, and
Mhm.
they are really ethical.
Yeah.
And so if you need a good lawyer, call Sean Valentine or Ryan Osbourne.
And he's here to really like demystify this whole idea of like the shark lawyer and how aggressive you have to be if you hire
be
a
like
lawyer.
that, right?
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to be an all or nothing,
Yes.
right? So it's not like, oh, well, I hired a lawyer, I can't hire a mediator.
Right.
No, these are the lawyers that we work with.
Exactly.
So they are there to do their job and we're there to do our job. And, you know, we're all there to work for the family. So it's a team effort. Welcome, Sean Valentine from Osbourne Valentine Law. Is it Osbourne Valentine Law or Osbourne Valentine and Associates, or what do you call yourself?
We usually go OV Family Law, but Osbourne Valentine is technically the.
I always
real
get
name.
Drake when I see your.
Hilarious!
When
The
I
OV.
see your head,
Yeah, I know.
I'm like,
I know.
OVO Law?
I know,
Like,
we were
is this
kind of
Drake?
joking. We needed
Yeah.
another
Oh, you
as
know.
another partner, and then it would be.
You need like a John O'Brien joins the team.
Just pull up and exactly. It can't be too hard to find. But welcome. We're so happy to have you here. And we were supposed to have Ryan as well, but he's under the weather. So we just get you. But it's going to be great.
He's so great.
Yeah.
And today we're talking all things family law from a really positive, fun perspective.
Yes. The good lawyer is in.
Good lawyer.
Jackie
Obviously,
did.
Amanda and I are so
Yes.
biased towards a mediation process, but
I was going to say towards him.
oh well, I was
It's
getting
with Sean.
there. I was
Okay, fine,
getting there.
Go ahead.
But there is a
Mediation.
time and a place. And I think what a lot of people really misunderstand is this idea of like, you either are amicable or you're very high conflict and you're going to court. And you kind of tote the middle ground.
Yeah, I think that's really the goal. You shouldn't have someone who's going to pick an A or B solution, right?
Yeah.
It should be a situation where you find the person that's going to support you. You
Yeah.
really want that person to come in and find a creative solution that fits your lifestyle, your person, your goals, your economic situation,
Yes.
everything like that to kind of help that person go forward. It's not a business solution. It's not, corporations going after each other.
Right.
These are real
Yeah.
people with real lives and kids. And it's just not so impactful to make
Yeah.
the right decision for a person versus just saying, you know what, we got to go to court. We got to
Yeah.
litigate this.
Right.
Or on top of that, just saying, you know what, you may not know your legal rights.
Right.
Go straight to a mediation. You got to find that
Right.
balance.
And so
Yeah.
when you're doing your like initial intake with a potential client, you're getting right into all of that to decide if it is a good fit. Or is it more the client has to decide that you're the right fit? Or is it really a sort of marriage, pardon the pun, of the two?
It's a little bit of both, I would say. What I like to do in most of my consults with prospective clients, I like to talk about process. I really think it's important when someone comes in, they really have no idea what their next steps are.
Yeah.
This is a really, really traumatic time in their life. It's really difficult for them. And I really like to give them all the options that they can have so they can make an informed decision, right? And so I'll obviously get some information, we'll talk and we'll get some to know each other.
Yeah.
But then we do talk about, well, you have options like mediation, you have options like arbitration, you have
Right.
options like court, you have a collaborative process that we usually offer to people as
Yeah.
well. And it really is just getting them to understand timelines, cost, stressors, different things like that, where that's going to be a part of it. And then they can make an informed decision on it.
Do you think most people come in with the sort of misguided view that they have to go to court?
A lot of them do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you sort of
Yeah.
have to manage their expectations or maybe enlighten them as to the other options?
I think enlightened is a good way to put
Yeah.
it. I don't think it's managing expectations because
Right.
I do think that most people that I at least talk to, they don't want to go that route. They see the horror stories, they see TV, they have a friend who went through a messy
Sure.
separation.
Yeah.
And all they know is the bad,
Mm.
right? So it's really just enlightening them that there's another path,
Yeah.
there's other options, there's ways to do this that we can hopefully make it as painless as possible
Yeah.
for them.
For a very painful process. Yeah.
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 And so are there times when you like don't choose a client or like you want that fight and I don't want to do it? Or are you like, okay, bring it on. This is mixing up what I regularly do. Like, are you looking for the fight sometimes or are you steering clear of it?
I'm not looking for the fight. I will definitely still be an advocate
Yeah.
for someone
Yeah.
who engages me and we'll be there to offer up the best service we can. But I do think that being a good lawyer, no pun intended, also allows you to take advantage and look into who's going to be your clientele.
Right.
And I think when I, again, start to talk to people at the initial consultation, I think I start to bring out my values and my goals and how I want to help somebody. And I think that does also include bringing in the right supports, whether it's therapists, counselors, things like that. And I think that when the client starts to think about that, then they get to know who I am as well. And I think if there is that nice marriage between the two of us, then we can help each other out. There will be red flags for certain people who come in, and we do get those clients that say, I want to take that person for all their money. And we can direct them to the person that's going to maybe help them a little bit
best
better.
suited for that. Yeah. So walk us through the process. Someone comes to you and they're like, I don't want to go to court. Here I am. What do I do? Help me.
I say, hi, my name is Sean. we have a very candid conversation, right?
Okay.
We really do talk about, okay, what's your life like right now? How, do you have kids? Do you have family? All these different things to get that big picture understanding of where they need to go. And then, like I said, we really do talk about process, and really ultimately it's going to be to that person to decide on what they want to do. And I would say most of the time cost is a big one, right? How much is this going to cost me to do this? Is this going to pretty much take away all my education savings for my kids or whatever have you? And so I do like to try to give ballparks. I like to try to say, okay, this is in, a perfect scenario. How much would this necessarily cost?
Like beginning to sort of end.
Exactly.
If everything went as planned and everyone did what they're supposed to do and
that's exactly.
doesn't delay and all of that.
Yeah. And we talk about a little bit, almost like a step ladder, where as you continue to go up that step ladder, more conflict ensues. And so if you want to stay at that bottom stair, that's going to be your least costly.
Right.
And it's going to be your least conflict. Right. And so we think about it that way. And then hopefully people, again, really identify with that and they understand. And then we really talk about their goals. We see what it is. And I like to really focus on those goals, because when people are having those difficult times, 5 months down the road, 10 months down the road, we always say, listen, you and I talked about your kids.
Yes.
That was your priority, not necessarily this equalization payment or whatever have you. Let's talk about your kids again and get them refocused.
People get so lost because the emotion takes over, right? And then you never know what is going to be a high value item for some. I had a file where they spent $10,000, I think, in mediation fighting over a Peloton. The Peloton was like $3,000. I was like, we could have gotten 2 or 3. Like,
you could have one.
We all could have gone a Peloton.
Who's going to get the membership fee too?
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that was a whole other afternoon. But people get so tied on to these one little thing, and it could mean absolutely nothing to you, but it means the world to them.
Yeah, and some of it is just control, right?
Yeah,
that they just need to win at one point, and it could just be the Peloton. It really could be, but we need to find that middle ground. And I think also what you guys are doing in terms of mediation, that really helps, right? Having those conversations to be able to find that middle ground or that one sticking point. You don't get that in court. A judge really looks at what's on the table. They make a decision. They know a very, very small snippet of your life. And you're losing a lot of power like that.
That's what it is you are giving up your power. And often you find that, the people that go to court are the ones that are fighting over the power the most. Yet they're going through a process where they have to give it up.
They literally have to give up.
It's literally the opposite. So if you want to maintain your power and your agency, stay out of court.
Yeah.
You can actually make the decisions yourself through negotiations or, other forms.
Yeah. No, I love the idea about goals, because I find, and I wonder if you do as well, you start off, let's say, amicable. People are really friendly. We're focused on the kids.
We're going to
want
be best
50-50.
friends.
Yeah.
Weekly dinner.
We want to invite them to, Christmas. Whatever.
It's always Christmas.
It's always Christmas
morning in our matching jammies with the ex-husband coming to the door.
And his new girlfriend.
Yeah, new girlfriend. Yeah.
And then it gets into the finances and everything kind of goes haywire. Is that pretty standard for what you're seeing?
Numbers really do change things for sure.
They really do.
Yeah. And I think the kumbaya of the goal of the co-parenting at the start, and then there's that one difference of, you're right, like, I want to take the kids on March break this year, and they haven't figured that out, and things go belly up, and then the conflict starts. It can be so many different places. We have no idea what's going to make a person tick. We don't know the history of their relationship for the last 5-10 years. They might have been holding literally a grudge because someone didn't sweep the floor 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that
it all
could play.
comes out.
Totally.
It all comes to the
How
surface.
much do you look at like status quo? Like in the marriage, you operated this way. Can we keep that going, but in 2 different homes, whether it's about the kids or finances or whatever?
We look at it. I think status quo is important in the interim for sure.
Yeah.
While you're still trying to work things out, because especially with younger kids, changing things up like that is very difficult for them.
Yeah.
So we do try to encourage some type of status quo. Obviously, it becomes much more difficult when there's 2 different homes.
Yeah.
There's budgets that have to be dealt with. There's maybe no support going back and forth. Like you have to figure that out. But I do think that I'm a big proponent of trying to keep things as is, as long as it's working for everybody, just because it's one less item to have to worry about and fight about and cause more concern and discussion while you're negotiating a settlement.
Yeah.
And that's if they take your advice. Like, do you find right?
It's a great look.
That's the gray area.
Right? It's all great if you take your lawyer's advice, but often, or your mediator's guidance, but often they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They kind of go, you tell them not to do something and then they go and do it. And you're like, I told you not to do that one thing.
How
and
frustrating is
blown
that?
Everything up. And I'm
like,
sure
you probably have a whole strategy and then they just
this is
screw it.
Because you know what works and you know what doesn't. You know what landmines to avoid because you've seen it before. And damn it, they go right for it.
They do. And
it's
you know
like
what?
A car crash, watching a car crash.
You're not going to sometimes kick the stupid out of stupid sometimes.
Right.
The end of the day is you can only give recommendations and you can give your advice. Obviously, in the back end, I think we're all going to just roll our eyes sometimes and say, well, that's just not really what I would have done in a situation. But humans are humans. They're going to make mistakes. There's a lot of emotion at play. You just find ways to either remediate it afterwards and deal with it, or you own up to it. You know, like I'm a big proponent of saying this happened. It is what it is. Recognize the wrong in your ways. Learn from it and just be better. Just be better moving forward.
Better.
But
I think a lot of the process though is kind of reactive and kind of like client screws up, you got to fix it, got to smooth it over, don't do it again kind of thing. Sometimes when they're a bit more high conflict.
The high conflict's tough. The nothing is worse than getting an email or a letter from the other lawyer on a file that you have no idea what happened. And this is the first time you're seeing this. And you're like, oh, okay, let's step back now and see what happened and get that information.
Do you find they often come on a Friday afternoon?
I was just going to ask about timing.
I
was just going to go there.
From my professional experience, I've seen that they come in, it's a long weekend. I don't know why. It's a Friday afternoon. And then what is that? What's behind?
This to me seems like the not good lawyer move. This seems like the mean lawyer move.
That's a shitty move, right?
Yeah. I find a lot of the issues happen around exchanges a lot of the time, which traditionally can be Fridays if you're doing the week to week.
Right.
Fair.
Right?
Okay.
Sometimes we do it that way.
Yeah.
Long weekends, holidays are the worst. There's always a problem there. Yeah. The bad lawyer sends an email at 4:30 p.m. talking about this, demanding a response on Monday. Like that, I've had those before.
Yeah.
Earlier in my practice, I would look at emails at 9:00 on a Friday and it would really get me upset and it would cause a lot of problems over the weekend just because you're thinking about it.
Yeah, of course.
And as you start to do this longer and longer, you figure out ways to deal with your own issues and your own mental health. And compartmentalizing it.
Right.
But I also think about it from the other side now. It's like, as the lawyer, I don't want to be the person sending that out at 4:30 or 5:00 on a Friday if it's not urgent, right? If there is legitimately a concern, 100%.
Right.
But if it's one of those like slap on the wrist emails of like your client shouldn't have done that, it can wait another day. Or even so, honestly, I'm such a proponent of just picking up a phone and talking and calling the other lawyer. Is
that lost? Is that a lost art? I really think it's a lost art because they have nothing to show their clients. It's like, look, I've written this nasty email and I've sent it for your review and you got it. Yeah. And it's kind of like, if you had a phone call, well, we talked about it. We're moving on. It's performative.
I was in a really interesting professional development course with a judge about a month ago. Cool. And all they said was a letter is just proof that a letter was sent. It means nothing. It literally means that nothing happened because it's not evidence. It's not, you're right. It's performative. Yeah. It's just this lawyer basically coming in and saying, this was bad. I need to send this out. And the client feels validated because the lawyer is
documented
side,
it.
yeah.
Exactly.
It's been documented
And
for
yes,
the record. Where is
exactly.
this record?
Yeah.
Right? This big record that you've been gathering. Like at the end of the day, no one cares.
Yeah. So you've mentioned that they have to reply to this letter.
Yeah.
Do you have to? Like, in what situation are you obligated to reply?
You're under really no obligation.
That's
at
what I
all.
thought. Okay, great.
Unless you're in court and there's an order in place or there's
Yeah.
a strict timeline from court's perspective. But I am a huge proponent when I see those kind of letters. I tell my clients, I can respond if you would like.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's, let's just be aware of this. This is what happened. Either go talk to your spouse or your ex-spouse, about this.
Yeah.
And remedy the situation, make nice, get back into the co-parenting relationship that you're in.
Yeah.
Or let's just, acknowledge it and move on.
Do you ever call the other lawyer out? Like if they are litigating through correspondence, let's just say, and you're constantly getting those letters. Do you ever call them out and be like, listen, like enough. We're not doing this anymore. Or this is not the file for that.
It's a delicate dance. You
Yeah,
gotta be
these are
careful with
these are your
your colleagues.
colleagues. But like if it's
But it's your
that's
client.
the thing. So it's your client is getting all these letters, but then your colleague is sending them, and you're like, so how does that work?
There's a couple ways you can go about it. Again, the phone call, I think is an incredible tool. I think I like to start every one of my files with a phone call with the other lawyer because it develops a rapport. Right? We're humans. We're not just sending emails back and forth. We're not just scolding each other when the negative things happen. And I think it really does allow the lawyers to have that conversation where an openness to have that dialogue to create some type of resolution
before things get heated or contentious.
And then we know each other. I can say, hey, Amanda, like let's hop on another call.
Yeah.
Let's chat about this and just be able to hash things out. So I think that's a really good way. If you can start with that direction, then you're really setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
And I do think there are certain lawyers that are kind of on like a no-fly zone where if I know that they're going to be on another file, I might say, listen, I don't know if I'm the right person for this file. Send them to maybe another more litigious lawyer.
Right.
If clients come to you, to your firm, would you and Ryan each take a spouse, or is that way too conflict of interest?
Or that's collaborative.
Collaborative.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we actually can't represent both parties no matter what.
Okay.
Just because even in a collaborative environment, there's still some adversarial approach, right? We're still advocating for one person. So we never can retain both clients at the same time. If we were doing wills and estates, that's a different story. We could jointly do the retainer, so long again as there wasn't any disagreement. If let's just say you and your spouse decided to come and say, no, I want someone else as a different executor of my will, that's where things would become problematic because there's differences of opinion.
Got it.
But as long as everything is kind of agreed on, then you can. But in the family law context, we never can. Collaborative, though, we can obviously have one person, and then we generally have another lawyer that we really work with well, who's also trained collaboratively. And then we build the whole process around that as being the focal point of, again, goals-based and far less adversarial.
And who is the right sort of perfect collaborative client? Because I can't imagine that it works for everybody, right? Because you have the high conflicts who are maybe not being forthcoming with their financials and what have you. But then who is the ideal?
Someone who has a reasonable net worth. And what I mean by that is there's going to be a house, there's maybe some RSPs, there's different investments like that. But exactly. Those are it's good because it can be a bit more costly than just going to mediation. Because there are a lot more meetings, there's a lot more people involved. But what I also really like about the process, it's almost like a choose your own adventure. And what I mean by that is you generally have your two lawyers, but from there you build a team based on the needs of the clients.
Love the team.
Right.
Love
so,
the team.
if we need a social worker because they're having difficulties with the kids, we bring in a social worker. If we have stock options that we have no idea the value of, you can bring in a CBV to go talk and get that person in to help you out that way. There's so many people that you can actually bring in, even a real estate agent. You could bring them in who's trained to help you with the valuation of the house or whatever have
because you need someone who's actually trained in that in matrimonial homes, right? Not just a regular real estate agent. Right?
And I think the misnomer is that, well, I've hired a lawyer and they should do all of this for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually like a kind of a power move to go, okay, well, this is my expertise. And I think you'd be better off with this person, which is their expertise. And, kind of build out like Frankenstein, that perfect team that actually gets the clients what they want instead of trying to be, a jack of all trades or whatever.
Yeah. I learned that very early in my practice. You
Yeah.
can't be a jack of all
No,
trades.
right.
You'll be a master of none.
Right.
And like at the end of the day, I want to offer my expertise,
Yeah.
and I also want to be able to focus on what I can do for them.
Right.
And why don't we bring in people who add substantial value to that process to get them through it?
Yes.
It's a really, there's a massive benefit to it. But again, it's for the right person, right? It
Right.
doesn't necessarily fit for every file, and I don't recommend it to every
Yeah.
single person.
Right.
But when I see someone who could really benefit from it, I think it's a great process.
Because typically that team is acting as a third party neutral. Am I right?
For the family.
For the family, right? Your therapist is coming in for the kids, let's say. You're getting a real estate agent for the matrimonial home. Like they tend to be more neutral. So if you have higher conflict, maybe they won't agree, or how does that, like, where's the pickle there?
Well, so what's great about the process is you're right. You have your lawyers who are still technically retained by that individual spouse, but anybody else is a neutral third party.
Right.
And so they actually come in, it's a joint retainer.
Mhm.
It's this expectation that you can only rely on these specific documents or
Right.
opinions
Right.
in this process. If the process went belly up and they had to terminate it, you can't use those people again.
Oh,
You can't
Right.
use your
Yeah.
lawyers.
Yeah.
You can't use the CBV. You can't use the social worker, whoever.
Huh.
So they really come into this with this concept of, again, neutrality and helping the family as a unit to move forward.
Mhm.
And really the goal, again, is to think about what are their interests? What are their goals? What do we need to move them forward?
Yeah.
And not necessarily just look at, well, this is the law. How do we apply the
Right.
law? Right. That's what a judge is for.
Right.
You want to go do that?
Go to
Go to
the-
a judge.
And to me, it would save money because instead of getting, in a conventional situation, you would have 2 real estate agents or 2 real estate valuations, 2 business valuators. You have 2 of everything because you need to find some middle ground. But
Yeah.
here, you're like, no, you're coming. It's one-stop shop. You're choosing one, and you're both going to use them.
So it not only saves the money if they're splitting that retainer, but also they're agreeing on the foundation of all these numbers.
And the hassle of negotiating after. I can't tell you how many
Yes.
times we just agree. Okay, you know what? We'll take the average of both
Yes.
valuations and
Yep.
we'll call it a day.
Yep.
That's on an easy day.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
battle of the experts in court is
Yeah.
in and of itself another thing.
And
Right.
so
Oh,
expensive.
yeah.
You have to bring in multiple people. You have to actually have them cross-examined and testify to their affidavits
Right.
and their expert reports. It's so costly.
Yeah.
And you're right. At the end of the day, there is still a disagreement potentially
Yeah.
on the value of that asset.
Right.
Whereas here, you're relying on this person. It's a trusted individual that the lawyers have generally worked with in the
Right.
past. You bring them in and you essentially accept the value and you move on.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
they're
okay.
sort of
Yeah.
arm's length to the couple. Like, they're not, well, I chose this one, you chose this one type of
Exactly.
issue, which happens a lot in our
All the
industry.
time.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And then they get nowhere because no one can choose anything.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah.
in circles there,
In
right?
circles.
Because
Right.
you're all, especially when it comes to the house, right? That is for the
Yes.
most part someone's biggest asset.
Yeah.
And they're always relying. They want to kind of do it on the cheaper approach most of the time. So you get those real estate opinions.
Yes.
And it's like they're fluctuating everywhere. And it depends on who you're
hundreds
getting.
of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars apart. I'm
Yeah.
like, no. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
wasting your time. I'm like, no.
So for our listeners, are there any piece of advice that you could give that you just constantly see clients falling into these pitfalls over and over again?
Yeah, there's a few. I would say the first one is the parenting side of things,
Okay.
where everything is unfortunately pretty subjective when it comes to
Mm.
who's a good parent and who's a bad parent.
Mhm. Or
quote
what's in the
unquote.
best interest of the
Yeah, or
children
what's
when
in
they
the
have
best
completely
interest.
different ideas. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's hard. Case law is all over the place when it comes to the best interests of the kids. You have to get to a point where you're going to get to a trial if there is this sharp opposition to each other when it comes to decision making. I'm not saying that every matter is right to have joint decision making, because it's not. That's not the reality. But I'm hard pressed to see the standard to be that sole decision making, right?
Yeah,
It's
right.
you have to really prove a lot to kind of show that they're not capable
Right.
of at least being consulted or at least being in part of the decision one way or the other.
It's a low threshold for good
Yeah.
parenting or for bad parenting or whichever way you want to spin it, I guess.
Yeah, it's because restricting your rights to your kids, that's pretty restrictive,
Yeah.
right? They're your kids, and a judge really doesn't want to do that if they don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to. Obviously, if it's a high conflict situation and the two of them just cannot get along, that could be an indication of why sole parenting would work.
Mhm.
Sole decision making. But that's one where I see where a lot of people spend a lot of time and money, and unfortunately the results are sometimes not in their favor or what they want. So
Yeah.
that's something to maybe manage expectations on. I think The other ones that I generally see are what we call post-separation adjustments. And just in the sense of someone racked up a credit card after separation, or someone was paying, all this money towards the Wi-Fi or the Netflix or the Spotify accounts. And it just keeps going and going and going. And the problem is that the longer you get up from separation, the more adjustments you have to make, the more records you have to keep, the more, just Excel spreadsheets you got to put together. And sometimes it's, the amount is like $1,000 and you're now fighting with a lawyer who costs a lot of money to spend thousands of dollars trying to negotiate that part.
It's the principle of it, right? That's what they're fighting over. It's like, you got to give it
and
up
so
sometimes.
as the good lawyer, are you saying, like, are you as directive to your clients of like, this is not worth the fight? Stop spending thousands of dollars for the Peloton. That's not worth it. Like, can you be that direct, and are they receptive to that?
I can be direct, and I will most definitely recommend that, especially in depending on the exposure that someone might have.
Right.
When when we have a conversation about it, I really do say, so what are we talking about here? Are we really talking about $2,000? Are we talking about $10,000? Is it really going to be worth our time? And then I say, listen, you can send me all the evidence you want. Show me all the, the data that you have. It'll cost you X dollars for my team to go through it, put a nice chart together and make sure that we understand everything, and then advocate, but you're going to get a net zero out of it. So why don't we just, you're causing all this conflict unnecessarily. What are we focusing on? And we go back to the goals.
Love
and
it.
we try to get through it.
But as you said, this isn't a business deal, but then in many ways it is a business deal, and it is a contract, and you are now in the business of raising your kids if you have them, right? So you have to take the emotion out of it, but you can't because this is your life and these are your children. And so it's so intermeshed.
I know. You can never take out the full emotion. It's impossible, but you do have to focus on the horizon, right? Like once you get out of this, what it's going to look like and what I like to call life 2.0, just like moving on and focusing on those future days and not getting just stuck in the mud on some of the things that really are not going to benefit you financially or emotionally. At the end of the day though, I'm just a lawyer and you're just mediators, and we can give recommendations. If a client really wants to continue down that path, we'll support it, but we'll make sure that they know that it might not be in their best interest. And most of the time people come around to it, they'll
like,
see,
you were right.
they'll see it, a couple months later, they were angry or they get a bill for X dollars and they see that, okay, maybe that just wasn't worth it.
Right.
And we got to move forward.
How long is your average case?
A lot shorter than court cases, thankfully. I think the goal, I like to say that we try to keep it to a year maximum if we can. I'm not going to say that happens every single time, but the more amicable a person can be, the quicker you can resolve everything. Obviously, I still have some cases that take longer just because of the nuances.
Right.
But really, the approach should be, faster and cheaper to.
Well, it does help with getting rid of some of the conflict, right? When they're in it, when they're negotiating, when they're all fired up. That's when you see so much conflict. Not to say that there isn't after the fact, of course. And I'm always telling people, don't rush through it. It's not going to change just because you've a signed document. It's still going to be there. But the longer you're in that state,
the longer you stay in it. You're in court, like a court date now. I don't know. What is the timeline now for a court date for some type of motion of some sort?
Motion you can get in a couple of months, but you have to be in that process, right? So you have to. You still have to issue an application. Then you still have to go to a case conference before you can do a motion. So you're probably not looking, close. It's probably 3 to 7 months.
And that's not for a final decision. That's a motion. Right? That's a temporary decision.
So is there ever a moment where you're telling your clients, okay, I think we should start this process because you're going to end up there and we may as well
just get it going?
Get it going? Yeah.
Get in line?
I mean,
get in the queue?
Right? It's like me. I'm like, I book into my yoga class. I may have to cancel, but I got to get in.
I got to get my spot in line.
Mind, body, booking your court appearance.
Mind, body, online.
We
sponsor us.
Exactly.
I do recommend it sometimes. If we have a spouse who's just not playing ball, right? It's to someone who is not responsive to our emails or our letters, not responsive to financial disclosure requests, things like that. I do sometimes say, listen, you can issue an application. It doesn't mean that we have to go through it with it. You still have almost 6 months after the issuance of your application to even serve it on somebody. So you do have that kind of wait and see, but at least it doesn't delay the process if we're going to get to a point where that's going to be the end game anyways.
Right.
So we do offer that, and I think it has a time and a place.
Mhm.
But I do think that a lot of people really just don't want to even start that, and I think there's a little bit of that scared factor in terms of financial costs, and that this is official, that I'm now in court
Right.
versus
the big leagues.
Yeah,
It's the
trying
big
to
leagues,
move
and it's all public.
I was gonna say,
It's a
forget the
pub-
scariness of it and the
It's
formality.
like your dirty
of it.
laundry is out there for everyone to see.
Literally.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
No
Pun intended.
pun intended. Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm like, do you want your kids to read
read
this
it.
and your
Yeah.
colleagues and your landlord?
No, it's the
or
nosy
your-
neighbors.
It's for sure
Right?
the
Who are
nosy
looking
neighbor.
up your file 100%.
Yeah, I'm a definitely nosy neighbor. We sit on the front porch and we watch those neighbors. And we call it the neighborhood watch, but really,
Okay,
we're
sure.
just
Neighborhood watch. Yes.
very nosy. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna go on the record
Yep. It's public, and anybody can actually walk into a courtroom and just sit there
and just watch.
and just watch and
Yeah.
see what's going on. And there are high profile cases that are listed online right now that you could go take
Yeah.
a look at and see a
Never
person's
done that.
We
net
did that. I
worth.
did that when I was
Done
in
that.
school. I was like, well, I don't know anything about the court. I have not been in one except for for fighting a parking ticket, maybe. I'm like, let's go see what it's all about. And it's not for me. Listen, that's a world that is very wrought with a lot of.
It's pretty intimidating
It's very
to
intimidating.
go into a courtroom. And I mean,
It is.
I think as a lawyer, it must be intimidating too, is it not? Unless or do you get
Do you
over
enjoy
that?
it?
You start to get used to it a
Yeah.
little bit. I will
Your
say the
robes and
first
your-
couple of times I went,
Yeah.
it's very nerve wracking.
Yeah.
This process is designed to intimidate.
Right.
Like that really is what it's
Yeah.
there for.
Is
It's-
that beneficial though, or is that just like an archaic model?
It's like a guard dog. It keeps them away.
I think
Yeah.
there's some benefit to it.
Okay.
I do think that having some formality and having the view and the grandeur
factor.
and scale of
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does offer up some credibility to the
Right.
system, and
Okay.
the rule of law is important to understand that you have to follow it, and there needs to be repercussions. So I do think that there is a benefit to it. I don't think it's the nicest in terms of family members and family
Mhm.
people going into it to deal with it, but I do think that there's a time and a place where if there are people that are not compliant, you do need that
You do.
Yeah.
that stronghold a little bit
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
process. But yeah, to get back to what you were saying before, to get in there initially, it is nerve wracking. You don't know where you're supposed to sit, how you're supposed to act,
Yeah.
why the lawyers are bowing at the back of the courtroom when they walk in. There's
Yeah.
so many of these weird
Yeah.
formalities that get built into it, and it's intimidating. So you really
Mhm.
do try to find ways to stay away from it if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find the sort of conflict of interest for yourself of wanting to advocate, but also, well, the more I keep working, the more money I keep making?
That,
It's a
that's
risk.
You
That's
always,
it.
that's always on your mind.
It's always
But,
on my
and the same goes in
mind.
our industry.
It does.
The longer the mediation takes,
Exactly.
the more the retainer is. But then we also want them to move on. We don't
Yeah.
want to take.
Listen,
you
there
know,
are
so it's-
times in a session where the two parties are just going at one another, and I do kind of sit back and I'm like, get it out. Get it all out.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
it out so
There's
that
a
we
time
can
and a
move
place.
on. Like you
Yeah.
do have to let
There's
them
a day.
vent,
Yep.
and then you nip it, and we do actually need progress, but sometimes they need that. And how do you find the balance? Because you are benefiting financially from them fighting all the time,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
more letters being passed back and forth, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think again, this is why Ryan and I were so alike. We were never about our bottom dollar first. We were about the clients first.
Yeah.
And we're always, and I'm always trying to find cost-effective solutions.
Awesome.
And so I really am not looking at this and saying, well, you're going to drive up the fees and I'm going to
Right.
let you do it. I actually get sick sometimes when I'm seeing the bills that I'm sending out for some of these higher conflict files, because I know that that's just money being taken away from their family.
And you know
Yeah.
what their finances are.
Yeah.
You
Like,
know exactly
you are very in bed.
Yeah.
how
with
much
what they
is in
want.
there is
Yep.
in the bank, and
Yep.
so you know how much is coming out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
heartbreaking sometimes. And so we really are trying to find ways to do it. And I think the business side of it is just offering up really good service. And so hopefully they can refer me to other
Yeah.
people,
It's
and we just
quality
continue.
That's
over
the better.
quantity, I think, is the
Exactly.
business model, right? Yes, you could
Yeah.
drag something out and make a couple bucks here, but over the long run, if you are getting people through their divorces quickly and
Yeah.
cost effectively, they're going to be referring and they're going to come back to you, or
Yep.
It
send
sounds
their
like there
friends.
is a bit of a move away from that. Like you alluded to that sort of shark lawyer that's kind of a dying breed, and people are, collaborative law is very new still, but it's coming, and people are sort of looking more towards that, I think.
Oh yeah. I think we just want to be good people doing
Yeah.
good work for people. And at the end of the day, everybody really is starting to move away from court.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the clientele that we're just gravitating towards,
Maybe,
but
yeah.
most of the calls that I have, they don't want to go to court. They really don't want to be stuck in this for years and spending all the money and time. They just want to move on and deal with it. Obviously, there's going to be certain outliers that have opinions, but the reality is that people just need a cost-effective way to get through this.
Yeah, you're seeing flat rate divorces now, all these like built-in packages. We're going to get you divorced for this much money, which is really helpful at a time when everything else is unknown.
Yep.
At least you have this one known to sort of bank on. Oh, I don't want to wrap it up, but it is time.
It is time
we
to
have
wrap
talked
up.
a lot. Any last information you want to give? I think it's so important that listeners know it's not like I'm going to court or I'm going to mediation, which is, more amicable. There is this middle ground.
Yeah.
And that's where you come in.
I think it's really important to find a lawyer that's going to talk to you about all your options and really be as candid as they can be about cost, time. If someone's giving you promises that don't seem true or too good to be true, they probably are, and it's probably unrealistic. So I think you do need to find someone to have a very candid conversation with. And honestly, what I always say is it really just comes down to feel. And most lawyers know what they're doing when it comes to substantive law. They're able to tell you what the child support guidelines are or what the recommendations are, but there is a certain level of trust that you need to have with that lawyer. And so I think that having those initial conversations and really starting to get to know that person will hopefully develop that trust and that rapport. And then it really comes down to how you feel with that person, being able to kind of be on that journey with you for hopefully only a year, but you never know. It's not longer.
You never know. Yeah. Okay, last question. What question or questions should someone ask you? If I'm coming to you for representation, what should I be asking of you?
Great.
Good question.
Yeah. Thank you.
You gotta give him a minute.
See, once my train of thought kicks in,
and I don't jump in and ruin it.
Take all the time.
No. Some questions to definitely ask are, what's your training? How long have you been doing this for? What's your hourly rate? So you can understand kind of what that might look like moving forward. Yeah. Support staff hourly rates. So right. Like, I'm not going to be doing every single thing on a file because that isn't not financially a good idea for time, it's not, and it's not great for the client. I don't want me to have to charge them at my rate when my law clerk, who's amazing, can do it for a bit cheaper. So getting to know rates and knowing that, potential timelines in terms of, what next steps would look like. And then I think on top of that is just really starting to ask very pointed questions about, this is my situation, and finding out if A, they can relate to that, and B, what kind of recommendations they might have moving forward. A lot of lawyers are not going to give substantive opinions because it's really just a consultation and you're not really supposed to give legal advice.
Without being retained.
Exactly. But most, I think, great lawyers will give high level information. And if the information that you're getting through the consultation, it needs to be prompted by the questions that you're going to ask. So just make sure that you're asking, questions that are directed at your scenario, not necessarily somebody else's.
Right.
And try to stay away from talking to people who have negative opinions or experiences for the most part, because it can be jaded. You're going to have a very different experience than your brother, your sister, your neighbor. So really try to go in it with an open mind and try your best to just stay positive.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks so much, Sean. This was
Thank
great.
It's been amazing, really. So informative and definitely very timely, because a lot of our listeners have a lot of questions about, what it's like working with the family lawyer. And it can be great.
Yes, it doesn't have to be
bad. Don't have to be scary. Don't have to be scared of the lawyer.
It's a good lawyer, good experience.
Exactly. It can be great. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank you guys.
Thank you.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.